Howdy, folks. Happy Thursday. We're back. There's some news, a trade, not a major deal, but it's still significant. Something
Deal's a deal, right?
A deal's a deal. That's right. And we love trades, and we love the trade deadline, and it's fast approaching. But we'll talk about that in a minute. We'll start with a pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
So I'm going to go out on a limb and say, not because Kevin's on the show, but I'm going to say the Professional Hockey Writers Association is better than the Baseball Writers Association. And I'm going to tell you a couple of reasons why. The first big reason is when I was at the Flyers game the other night and they announced Scott Rowland into the Hall of Fame, there was a little bit of a murmur because there's 3 or 4 writers there that cover baseball too and still do. And then 10 minutes later, all of a sudden the Phillies are like, yeah, there's going to be a Scott Rowland night. And that's when things got to like a fever pitch in the press box because he left town saying that he was going to baseball heaven when he went to the Cardinals. He killed the fans, killed the media, hated it. I used to interview Ed Wade every year because he was nice and approachable when I first started the website. And Ed Wade used to get killed by Scott Rowland, just killed out in the press. And it was bad. And, one guy tweeted to me that Scott Rowland is an ass. Another guy, when we were talking about him, called him a creep. Now, this is from his Philly days. Obviously, he matured a little bit. But when they announced him on the call for the baseball writers, they called him a superstar. And Kevin, that's when I lost it. Like, that's when I was like, there was never a moment in this guy's career where he would be tagged a superstar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I was surprised when I heard that. I got to be honest, just in terms of, the name recognition value and so forth. That's one of the issues that I have with the way that they have the Hall of Fame voting in baseball is it's such a large contingent. And I almost feel like people feel like they're obligated to vote for somebody.
Yes. And I felt that way this year, Kev, because I was watching MLB Network and they were nice enough. They had a new writer on, and the new writer is like, hey, yeah, it's my first year voting. And honestly, you're allowed to vote up to 10 people, but I only voted for 6. And that's when I knew. I wrote about it literally 10 minutes after that interview because I'm like, that's the problem right there. So you hit on it, and I knew it right from there. Like, all of a sudden, they're forcing it now.
Well, I mean, we know that especially in the Baseball Hall of Fame, players who don't think have Hall of Fame numbers get put in the Hall of Fame based on the position that they played. Mazeroski at second base, he's more of a defensive guy. Here Rowland had what, 2,100 hits, Russ? 20, a little under.
Yeah, just about 2,100, 20,077. That's not a ton.
No doubt he was a great defensive third baseman and was a pretty decent hitter, but there are guys who, the first guy that popped up in my head in terms of third baseman who are maybe the equal of him defensively and close to him offensively is a guy like Matt Williams. And Matt Williams is never making the Hall of Fame.
No, what's interesting too? Jeff Passan, who works for ESPN, who I think does a great job, when he tweeted that Scott Rowland set the standard for modern-day third baseman as far as fielding, I almost fell over because I'm like, listen, you know who set the standard? The guy's playing right now, Nolan Arenado. He's got 10 Gold Gloves in 10 seasons.
Yeah.
Like, that's setting a standard. Brooks Robinson set a standard because he was the only guy in baseball that could do a barehanded play, even behind the bag, and get you out at first base. And that was a standard. Now, he wasn't a great hitter, but he's in the Hall of Fame for that. Like Scott Rowland was a very good player. Like, that's it, all around.
And Kev, you can tell that there is a bias in terms of position for the Baseball Hall of Fame when you consider that you put Scott Rowland's offensive statistics and his defensive statistics side by side with Keith Hernandez. Hernandez beats him in every category, won an MVP, shared an MVP when he was with the Cardinals, won 2 World Series. But and I talked to Russ about this. I think that Hernandez didn't get picked by that Veterans Committee earlier in the year because of his involvement with the Pittsburgh drug trial back in the 70s.
Yeah, no, that has to be it, because when you look at his contributions, and so many people on social media have talked about the Hernandez situation. I found it curious too that it looks to me like Helton is moving up into that realm as well. And it's funny, but I feel completely different about Helton.
Yeah.
And I think he's in that category of does he deserve really to be in it? But a lot of people think Helton should win.
Here was my issue why I don't think he should, Kev. I think he was close. His road numbers were still pretty good. It was never going to match Coors Field, but he played 3 years without the humidor in Coors Field, and the batting average for the field 1 year, the year he hit 372,
Yeah,
average for playing in that field was 327. 327, and he hit 42 homers. And those 3 years, what really got him really close to being Hall of Fame numbers, and that's why I couldn't put him in.
And the other one that's gaining percentage is Billy Wagner.
Wagner should be in.
I think Wagner's going to get in, and I know that a lot of people were criticizing, and I'm not one of them because I don't believe he should be in the Hall of Fame. And that's Carlos Beltran, and I think he had like 45%, but the fact that he was one of the main people involved in the Astros cheating scandal might end up keeping him out. That taint is there. I don't know if it's going to keep Altuve out when he retires or some of the other players on that.
Well, I mean, depending on who's voting, then it could.
Yeah.
I mean, I would put Jimmy Rollins in. I would put Andrew Jones in. Andrew Jones is over 400 homers, had 9 or 10 Gold Gloves in a row.
I think he'll get in eventually.
It's hard to believe he can't get in now.
He's got to wait his turn in line, and that's the thing. I hate.
No, but here's the weird thing, and this is where Kevin was right when he said they kind of forced it. When Roland first hit the ballot, he had 10% of the vote.
Right.
But now that the ballot has gotten dwindled down because they don't like Jeff Kent, he didn't do anything. Jeff Kent was just a jerk, but his numbers speak for themselves. They don't. They don't like Albert Bell, who had 10 amazing seasons in baseball, but because he was a jerk, he doesn't get looked upon. So they've dwindled the choices down to now where all of a sudden they looked at Scott Rowland and they were like, close enough.
He's the Harold Baines of this year. All right,
here we go. Ready?
Yes.
It seems like it's way too easy to get in the Baseball Hall of Fame compared to the Hockey Hall of Fame, but that's me.
It never used to be this easy.
No.
Now it is.
Yeah. All right. Hello, Hockey World. It is Thursday. We'll call it Thursday, January 26th, 2023.
I'm Michael Agello, and I reject the waiver claim from the Oilers.
I'm Russ Cohn from Sportsology. Eck almost got the year wrong. Almost.
I know.
Kevin Allen.
And I'm Eklund, and you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. It's the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday for you on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And yes, I am back. And yes, if anyone who tells you can't get COVID twice is wrong. And it's insane. My whole family it was a week ago tonight, rushed my wife to the hospital with 105.3 fever, which is like insane. Like you go to take someone's temperature, you look at a digital thermometer, and you say 100. And the first one was 106. Then 104.7, then 105. So anyway, she had COVID. My son got COVID right after that, and then I managed to. Having just had COVID not too long ago, said I'll take care of you guys. I'll be fine, And then I of course managed to get it as well. So, that didn't get nearly as bad, but definitely have the lovely COVID blasé aspect of it. COVID, which I know Kevin, have you had COVID, Kevin, yet?
I have not had COVID, but many.
Yeah.
My family has ripped through it, and 3 of them have had it twice. And I know several people who have had it multiple times.
Yeah. So. Oh, it's awful. And the worst thing about it, honestly, is not so much there's one day that's going to really suck when you get it, that you really feel awful for sure. But then it's just like kind of like having a flu or a cold. But then getting your energy back is really hard.
Yeah,
that's the killer. Like, right, you just want to sleep. Like yesterday, I was like, I felt better yesterday. I thought I'd fall asleep, and I went to sleep from like 1 o'clock in the afternoon until 5:30 at night. I just woke up, 4.5 hours sleep in the middle of the day, and then fell back to sleep at 10. Like no problem at all. That's just crazy. I can never sleep like that. I don't sleep. I sleep like 4 hours a night usually. It's crazy. Anyway, here we go. Let's get into this. First of all, thanks to the Sharks. Somebody used to work in Philly who now works in San Jose. I don't know if he still works in San Jose, but who did believe my plight. Sent me this for my birthday. When I said that I thought I designed the shirt for the Sharks, he sent me this. It's pretty kind of cool.
Awesome.
So I just got it. So who knows how long Erik Karlsson will be on the team, but
that's one of the alternate jerseys I really like. The Oilers last night wore that stupid rock with oil in the middle of it.
Yeah.
That hideous jersey, and they promptly lost to Columbus, so they deserve to wearing that thing.
Somebody the other day nailed it to me as far as alternate jerseys. The ones, if you look at an alternate jersey and you say to yourself, that should be a roller hockey jersey, that's bad. Like there's sometimes that some jerseys just remind you of, nothing against roller hockey, but you've seen like roller hockey jerseys.
Yeah, I mean, Ron Gay played roller hockey. I think it was like the Jacksonville Barracuda.
Yeah, but some of the roller hockey jerseys are really just some of the bad NHL jerseys.
I'm not sure if Corinne is in the chat, but I think she could tell. If she is, I'm pretty sure she could tell me. I think the Canadians have lost every game with that hideous blue.
That's a rough.
No, I think they have. I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
And I hear, Kevin, that in Detroit there are people who are actually digging their third jersey and want them to use it.
But there are many people who dislike them either. It's kind of all over the map. I think the majority opinion is, it is what it is. Kind of. But some of them I really, really do like, and there are others where, nice try.
This one I have to say is very cool. Like I would have definitely, would have gone with the other color scheme. I guess before.
Yeah.
But I do like it a lot. And I think when teams go back to older times, like when the when the Maple Leafs have gone back to their old Toronto Arrows or whatever they are.
Well, the arenas,
St. Pat's, right?
They wear that every year for St. Patrick's Day, which is fine.
I like that.
It's not their colors, but I mean, I like the Toronto arenas jersey and some of the throwback jerseys. But when when they did the reverse retro one with like 3D look, I mean, it made me throw up.
Like the Flyers black and white one is just terrible. I think I just don't like it at all. I mean, the only thing the Flyers are going for.
Some people like it for its like monochromatic nature. I actually had someone tweet me that they don't like. They want all the orange gone in the Flyers jersey. Now, the funny thing for me is, like being a Met fan, I like orange. I've always liked orange, and so like I don't dislike the orange in the Flyers jersey, and it's always been there. Imagine if they took it all away, like that would be.
I can't imagine that will ever happen because that is their thing,
Russ,
other teams use orange, like when the Ducks use orange and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Russ, I like orange because it's the color of Tang. But
let's get into the actual rumors for a second.
Well, can we start with the trade? The first trade.
We have an interesting minor sort of trade.
Yeah. Okay. So a trade between the Avalanche and the San Jose Sharks, with the Sharks sending 2018 first round pick Ryan Merkley and Matt Nieto, who has played for both the Sharks and the Avalanche already. He keeps going. It's a shuttle service with Matt Nieto and the Avalanche Sharks. Going the other way are Jacob McDonald and 2018 first round pick Martin Kaut. Now I talked to Russ about this. Merkley is somebody with a lot of talent, but somebody who has, I think, well defined and well chronicled off the ice issues that the Sharks thought that they could straighten out. Kaut simply just hasn't broken out with the Avalanche, who are very deep up front. Like in this deal, I know Nieto is a fourth liner that they can use and helps their depth. But in terms of the prospects, I like Kaut better than I like Merkley.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is the same things that you would like in Anthony DeAngelo offensively. Merkley is even better that way. But DeAngelo actually plays better defense than Merkley. And that's hard to believe because DeAngelo's defense is not great. And so that's going to be the challenge to have him there. If they're going to use him as just like a rover, yeah, he's got ability, but I don't know if he could stay in the league that way. I would rather have Kaut because I believe you can get Kaut to the NHL as a bottom six guy. Just the path in Colorado is rough because they're a Stanley Cup team. Their bottom six is great. Like it's better than most teams. So that's that's where I look at that trade, and I also look at it as San Jose saying, look, we tried with Merkley. They have developed a lot of players, especially defensemen. Look at Mario Ferraro, right? I mean, nobody thought he would be what he is now. We could just go through the list. So if they're sort of trading Merkley, they're like, all right, well, we gave it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, the only sure thing in the trade is Nieto.
Yeah.
They know what they have with him. They very much wanted him. They were looking for that kind of player. They already have history with him, and they're going to plug him in. Everything else is, you have the dice in your hand. And I talked about it with somebody yesterday who knows the league, and he said, I don't like anybody in that deal but Nieto. So
yeah. And I think the loss of Helm this year, Kevin, they like Nieto and Helm sort of played the same kind of role for them last year.
Good point.
I think they need the fact that Helm's been hurt. They're missing that little bit of
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, so they get a guy, and I think it was really important to them that they got somebody that they knew was going to fit, and everything else is you're just shuffling pieces. And we talked about this before, and I talked about it with Russ before the show. Just is that everybody always believes that they can do what other teams can't with prospects. Like I'm sure the Sharks believe, they're going to turn Kaut into a player, and I'm sure. Colorado thinks, well, let us work with Merkley, and that's only their first teams. So usually you got to get through a couple before they officially, say that the jury is no longer out.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I do think that Colorado, they are missing something from last year, and obviously the second line center is the most obvious that they're looking for. And I kind of want to get to that a little bit because my rumor today was involving Sean Monahan, who is not back yet, but is skating and is about to be back any minute. And I talked to a couple scouts today who told me that they're basically following him around, waiting for him to come back.
Well, and actually, it's sort of the similar story to what's going on with Ryan O'Reilly. It's like they're scheduled to be back sometime this month, probably after the All-Star break, and everybody is focused on how they look after the injury. And it sounds like with O'Reilly, it's a broken foot. With Monahan, I believe it's lower body. It's not supposed to be anything.
But if I'm with O'Reilly, I would be like, don't block any shots. We're gonna play tonight, and then we're trading you.
Yeah, with Monahan, I heard it's not the question he plays tonight, but I don't know that he will. But I know that
I think Monahan will eventually play. I figured he would play this year, and then they would trade him at some point this year. But the problem with Monahan is Calgary misused him so badly that you don't really know what he is. Yes, you could fit him in as a third line center and get something out of him, but you don't know if he's any more than that at this point. That's
I was going to say, the impression that I got, a couple months ago there was chatter that Montreal was interested in extending Monahan, but that talk ended probably because they couldn't get him on a lower deal. I mean, he's made over $6 million now.
Kirby Doc. I think once they did the Kirby Doc thing,
I think that was the end of that too. Yeah.
And one. So the thing is, he's making 6.3. Montreal's going to have to retain salary on him. The question is whether teams look at him, as Russ just said, as a number 3, or as a fallback as a number 2. And Kev, I don't know. Before his injury problems in Calgary, I would have said, sure, he's a great number 2. Now, after what he's been through, I don't know whether he fits in as a number 2 with a good team.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that assessment as well. Like he's almost got to prove himself again because his game fell off. He wasn't the same player. But I think one of the reasons why you're seeing sort of this aggressiveness toward him is I'm still not totally convinced they're going to trade O'Reilly. I mean, O'Reilly said again yesterday, I want to stay in St. Louis. That's
No, that's a good point. I mean,
everybody keeps talking like this is a done deal. I do not think this is a done deal. I
have not put him on the rumor chart even yet because I'm not convinced. I mean, and with Monahan, he did, he was playing extremely well before he got hurt. So he got hurt December 5th. But he had 8 points in the 8 games prior to that. So it was a point a game. He was playing.
Yeah, but don't you think, and this is just pure speculation. Mostly I noticed this in the NBA, but it's a lot easier to play when you're on a poor team.
Yeah.
There's no pressure. Nobody's looking, teams expected to lose. So now everyone's looking at is how many points did you get?
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. But I think I think with Monahan, you have you have a former captain character guy too. There's other levels to him besides just he does bring. He's not going to hurt your team at all. Like you bring him in, he's not going to hurt you.
It depends what the asking price is. That's the point.
I don't think the asking price will be that crazy. I think this is a backup for Colorado's second line center issue. I think it's one of the places that I heard as a very good possibility. New Jersey.
He has a modified no trade. He's got a 10-team no trade list. And he's making over 6. So
he's going to go anywhere, though. He's going to go anywhere he can play in the playoffs, I think. I mean, he's going to want to play in the playoffs.
You would think.
He's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. He's going to want to make himself look better.
And you apply that to O'Reilly, though. I mean, okay, O'Reilly does not have any no-trade protection. So Doug Armstrong can say, I'm going to trade you, and right, and you have nothing to say about it. Now, if he wants to stay and they can get him on a friendly deal, on a deal that's below market, then I think he'd be dumb to trade him. But right now,
I don't think it's got to be below market. I think it has to be not pushing the limits.
well, I mean, the chatter there that I heard, Kev, and it's secondhand, of course, is after signing Kyrou and Thomas to what they signed him to, which is over $8 million, that now Tarasenko probably is gone. He's been rumored but O'Reilly would have to take something, in the Braden Shen, between what Shen is making and what Thomas is making, and that's probably, $6.57 million. And that might be pushing it because he's, I think, 32 or 33 years old and maybe starting to decline away from his prime years. He's
not going to get a lengthy deal.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So,
here's my issue though, with Monahan as far as the market. So let's say there's a team out there that says, yeah, we'll give you a second in next year's draft.
Yeah.
You give us either a B-level prospect or something,
Right.
You could get that deal done. But if they go to me and say, listen, this is what this other team, what we're offering them, but we want this year's second out of you. And I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't give him a second round pick for this year.
well,
Depends where that second round pick is, maybe.
It doesn't matter. I wouldn't care if it was the last pick in the second round. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
what I'm peaked at, and we'll probably have to have Corinne on the show before the deadline, is how this extends to, because we know Montreal is tanking. Caulfield going out for the rest of the year. I mean, they would have loved to have had him completely healthy, but he was having chronic shoulder problems. I think they thought, okay, let's get this taken care of for training camp next year, and if we lose, we lose. We're not making the playoffs.
They just sent Primo down.
What's that?
They just sent Primo down too. Montreal did. So
Right.
It tells me that they're not gonna they're gonna let him play down there and get his game up.
But here's an example too, Ek. So let's say this draft is as good as the 2003 draft, depth-wise.
Yeah.
So the 62nd overall pick was David Backes. Like that could be
Yeah.
what I'm basically giving up to get Monahan as a rental, and I'm not doing it.
Right, but in terms of the Canadians, Monahan's a UFA, Drouin is a UFA,
Right.
Dadnoff is a UFA,
Yeah.
and Edmondson, who is now healthy, has a year left at $3.5 million.
But he's gonna get traded.
Yeah, he's going to get traded, and I think now I don't know what the market is on Drouin.
That's what I heard at least. But
Yeah, I don't know what the market is on Drouin and Dadnoff. I mean, Drouin's had his issues in
Dadnoff has people out there who like him. It's not gonna be big. It's not gonna be a big return, but there's gonna be somebody who's gonna take a chance on him. The Islanders could take a chance on Dadnoff. I heard.
Well, here's another thing too, Ek, that we have to look at with Montreal.
Yeah.
They are in the process of strip mining their team because they have a chance of getting the top two picks, the first and third pick. Like they could dominate the top of this draft if they drop like a stone, or if they're just in the conversation because Florida gets in the conversation and that pick is theirs. That's a smart move by them. That is a good move. So some of these players, they might give them up for a song. They're not going to ask a lot for Drouin. They're just going to give them up.
Right.
Yeah, Duran's a really hard one to move. I've heard.
I think it's going to be harder to move those kind of players, though. I think the premium players are going to move.
Yeah.
But there's such a limited number of there's not enough cap space.
Right.
So because of that, I think they're going to have you're going to spend your money on the premium guys and just not be able to take those guys that are $3, $4, $5 million.
Could happen for sure. Yeah.
I think.
That's
going to be nuts for saying this, but I've heard that they could get possibly like a second and a third for Edmondson.
well, and
Edmonton's hot in the market.
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
The defensive market is dramatically different than the forwards. And what the thing is with a team like Montreal, they will have to retain. I don't think they're retaining on anybody going into this. So they have 3 retentions. If you're talking about retaining for those UFAs, they print money, so the money is not a consideration here. If you want to maximize your value for Monahan, for Drouin, for Dadnoff, I don't think you have to do it for Edmondson. You're going to have to retain salary. That's the key, especially in the market being as tight as it is.
But that, like you said, it's not a problem.
Yeah, I don't think it's a problem for them to retain. The problem is I just don't think there's a big enough market for those guys.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you're probably right. But Edmondson, and this is the thing, we're hearing right now that what Jarmo Kekalainen is asking for, for Gavrikov, is the same amount that he got for David Savard when he traded David Savard to Tampa, which is a 1 and a 3.
Yeah.
So now you're talking Edmondson is a 2 and a 3. You're hearing there are rumors about Jake McCabe going to Edmonton or Toronto, and it's a second. And he, so that the market out there in terms of defensemen is totally absurd because some of these guys are making $4 million. Gavrikov's making less than $3 million. But Jake McCabe's making $4 million, and he has had 3 major injuries.
Yeah, Gavrikov will get a lot more than Jake McCabe in the market. He's going to be one of the top guys. He'll get more.
That's part of their value is the fact they're not making a lot of money, so they can fit.
And Edmondson's being signed again for next year. So
I think Gavrikov, based on maybe he'll extend with your team and what he's not making now and his skill set, he's going to get either 2 picks or a pick at a good prospect. Like he's going to get a good return.
Well, Kev, the odd thing is right now, and it hasn't happened much in the past, but it's happening more and more now. You hear teams want to talk to Gavrikov's agent before the deadline. Teams want to talk to Timo Meier's agent before the deadline. They're trying to feel out what would be going for, like, I'll trade for Gavrikov if we can get him signed on a long-term deal. Before that was very rare. Now it's happening more and more.
We do have some breaking news.
Yeah.
Craig Morgan reported that Shane Gostisbehere has a UBI out 3 to 4 weeks. That could push him outside of the deadline.
Well, I mean, you'll get him for a song now.
Lower body.
I'm sorry, 4 to 6 weeks. 4 to 6 weeks.
So that's
That
past.
pushes him outside the deadline. Yeah.
The only thing to worry about with him is that stomach surgery he had. Remember?
Yeah, but this is if he's got a concussion or something or a bad neck injury for a defenseman, I don't think anybody's taking him without seeing him again.
Yeah.
And you mentioned. Sorry.
I mean, one thing I want to say about what you just said, Mike, is this.
Yeah.
I think that I don't think we're hearing it any more than we usually do about teams wanting to talk to people about. Like I think that teams have always out there. It doesn't always get reported, but teams always would like to talk to a player that they're trading as a rental. Almost always, to talk about the future. Like that's not that uncommon. It doesn't often get into the press. It's rare that it does.
Now I'm not about to write off a team with 32 games left when they're within shouting distance. But since our last show, watching the Islanders against the Leafs, I don't think they're a Tarasenko or a Dadonov away from jumping and being in a contending situation. I feel sorry for Ilya Sorokin because they're scoring 2 goals a game.
Yeah.
And they can't. That's it. 2 goals, and that's a standard that you really can't. If you can't manage more than that, then you're not really a serious playoff contender. Right now, they're 5 points behind Washington and Pittsburgh. Then they have Buffalo and Florida in between them. And Lou came out earlier in the week.
All have games in hand. All those teams have games in hand.
Right.
Yeah, he came out earlier in the week, and I mean, Russ, it sounded to me like a mea culpa that he's like.
It was. He took the bullets and definitely fell on the sword.
Look again last night, though. Did you hear what he said last night? So
hold on, we'll do that in a sec. But I just, the situation is dire. It's in the sense that if they don't do something before the deadline, they can be out of it before then. They're not going to keep losing games. They do have an easier part of their schedule coming up. But the problem is, even Lou knows, just limping into the playoffs, even if they were able to make it, which I don't think they are, is not going to look good for the future of this team. Like, this team has gone as far as it's going to go. And I'm going to tell you, this is what I think Barry Trotz looked at. I think Barry Trotz wanted Lou to make certain changes. Lou probably told him his plan. I think Trotz surveyed the landscape of players, saw that some of them were aging, and was like, I can't do anything else with this crew. I think that's what happened.
And right now we're not calculating him. I don't know if he's on the rumor chart, but if the Islanders drop back and they're 7, 8, 9 points out of a playoff spot, simply because of his salary and the type of defenseman he is, Kevin, Scott Mayfield will draw a ton of interest. He's at $1.4 million.
Yeah.
He's a big, raw-boned, right-hand shot defenseman. That's a guy that an Edmonton or a Toronto or any team that needs an experienced blue liner, they're probably salivating over that guy.
Yeah, I don't think Lou will give him up, but I agree with you. I think everyone's going to call.
Oh yeah.
But 5, they feel like they're still in it. But what's being lost to the fact that they only have scored 17 goals in their last 11 games. But
Right.
what's lost is they've given up 4 or more in 6 of those 11 games.
Yeah,
Right.
Like they're giving up goals too.
they are.
It's not, the offense is the number one priority, trying to fix that. And, even their top scorer, Brock Nelson, has 18 goals, but he's got 3 in his last 4, but he went 14 games without a goal.
Yeah.
And that's
And he pulled his own tooth on the bench. I don't know if anybody saw that the other
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
He pulled his own tooth out. I cringed when he did that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It had to be pretty far out, Russ. Like
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
I don't know. I did that one time when I got my tooth knocked on too. Yeah.
Tie it to a doorknob. Do it the old-fashioned way.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, but I thought in that same article when Liam Rullo said it's all on me, that's pretty much a quote. He sounded like like a guy that couldn't get anywhere in the trade market.
Yeah.
Like he said, is it worth it? Like it sounded like the price is too high, and like I thought he was trying to say, I'm not close to anything. So
Well, the weird thing is, Kevin, how many teams right now have we said they're looking to make hockey deals and not sort of prospect pick first rounder type deal? Vancouver's looking to make hockey deals. The Islanders are looking to make hockey deals. Maybe St. Louis. There's maybe 5 or 6 teams out there that say they want to trade players, but they want to trade them for other players.
Right.
I don't understand why. Maybe they just can't make the numbers match. Maybe they don't like the combo.
Well, there's not enough of those teams. I think there's only a few, and I don't know that there's a match. Like I don't, like I've tried to look at where Vancouver and the Islanders fit. I don't see it.
Well, I mean, a guy like Besser would, in terms of a scorer, with a defenseman on the Islanders, say like like Pelech or Dobson or Pulak.
But how does that help the Islanders? It doesn't.
Well,
They're
they need
not going to
score.
trade them, but I do believe they would trade Mayfield if they're out of it, because unless they know they're re-signing him, like they may know.
Oh, well,
They know.
yeah, I think they want to re-sign him, but the question is can they get him
He
re-signed?
might price him out though.
They'll
Maybe
know.
he'll
Lou
get
will know. Lou does know.
Oh yeah, you're right, Nick.
He'll know. He'll know whether or not he can resign him or not. Like
I will tell you this about Mayfield, just knowing his personality a little bit. I don't think he is going to take a middle of the line offer.
Yeah.
I think knowing what he kind of is right now, and there's a shortage of that around the league. I think he's looking for his top value.
Well, Russ, all he's got to do is look at the contract that someone like Erica Branson got from Columbus, where he's making $1.4 million right now, and Branson is making $4 million. He knows at the minimum he's getting $4 million,
Right.
and probably
He's better than Branson.
right, and probably with Lou having Pulak, Pelech, and Dobson all making $4 million or more, he doesn't want to pay another defenseman $4 million.
Yeah, I will say this: Esmer's right. Mayfield's 30, but on the plus side is he's rarely been injured.
No, he's been
Yeah.
solid. I mean, he's definitely a 3-4 type defenseman, which is going to be a $4 or $5 million defenseman. There's no way around that, right? Like,
Well, yeah, I mean the average NHL defenseman is over $3 million right now, and that includes third pairing guys as well. In that
yeah,
group. So,
definitely. I mean,
Unless they're trading Pulak for 2 seconds. Sorry, Islander fans, I had to do that.
well, the other thing about the Islanders too is
I'll get it.
I would
7
do-
tapes, folks. 7 tapes. But
Right.
Kev, I mean, look what Detroit paid for Ben Sherratt. Now Ben Sherratt is better offensively than Mayfield. He has a little bit of an offensive.
Ben Sherratt is an impact defenseman.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Like when you see him every day, first of all, he's got better offense than I thought he did.
Yes.
He leads, and you see this a lot with NFL players. But occasionally it happens. Like when you look at Sherratt, there's no way you think he's 235 pounds.
Exactly.
Like he looks lean, but that's what he is. Like he is solid granite.
He moves better. He moves better than you think a 235-pound defenseman.
Well, I mean, he just doesn't look 235. Like
He's thin. I know he doesn't finish.
He looks like he's 210, but when he hits you, you feel it. So
yeah.
Now, Ak, I want to bring up because they've won.
An Islanders.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so the Lou, remember, likes his team more than we do.
Yeah.
Still at this point, and that's what I got out of that interview. And then hearing one from his comments last night too, he's just basically saying, listen, I didn't read that interview that you guys read, but I heard some of the things from last night too, where he's talking about, we're goal differential, we're still really close, and I know he's a +1 in goal differential right now.
It doesn't matter.
The only team with goal differential, I guess it's a plus. It isn't in the playoffs or something like that. But no, at the end of the day, it does matter. It
doesn't, because exactly for what Kevin said, because you're going to go through stretches where you're only going to score 2 goals a game, and if you give up 4, you got a problem. There are days you're going to score 5 goals, and the Islanders went on a tear like a month ago with that, and that padded the differential, but it doesn't make them any better.
They're one of 3 teams that are outside the playoffs with positive goal differential.
Okay, that's usually rare though. And here's the thing about this, we all think the Islanders have had a pretty lousy season, right? Like, I would say that this is a very disappointing season for the Islanders in general. We'd all say that this has been,
I mean, this is what I expected.
This is exactly what I expected.
I think it's below average for what most people thought they would do. Yeah. Because they've been competitive for the last couple of years, and they've been, they've gone pretty far in the playoffs a couple times too. But at the end of the day, they're 5 points behind Washington, 4 points behind Washington.
5 points behind Washington, 5 points behind Pittsburgh.
Right. Pittsburgh has a bunch of games in hand, but
and so does Buffalo, who's 2
we have
points.
more breaking news.
Go ahead.
So it's hard to say who won it. It's really under the wire for either Chris Johnston or Elliot Friedman, but Andrei Kuzmenko signed a 2-year bridge deal for $5.5 million a year.
No, Kevin Weeks broke that yesterday. He said
he said it might happen. Then these guys confirmed that it's happened.
Right. Okay.
So you guys are actually arguing over who got a contract signed.
I need to know where to send Stark. I need to know where to send Stark.
I'm just saying I retweeted what Kevin Weeks said yesterday, and it was basically
sounded
like it's going to happen. But you know what this is? This is the Panarin deal with Chicago. This is like he's
not going to stay there.
Right. He signed that 2-year extension, and this is essentially insurance for Vancouver. They can move him next year, because if he continues to play like this, if he's a 75, 80 point winger, they won't be able to sign him in 2 years because they're going to sign Pedersen.
Shocked. I mean, the intel I got on was, yes, he's a very talented player, but they didn't know if he'd be able to translate into the league. And I guess that's why it took him so long to get there. Vancouver took a chance and they hit a home run.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think they signed him to trade him.
I'm not saying they're going to trade him. I'm not saying they're going to trade him like, say, this summer. I'm saying that they signed him to a 2-year deal so they had some protection
right.
in case down the line. You remember, Panarin played the first year of that 2-year deal with the Hawks, and then they traded him to Columbus.
But I don't think I don't think the Hawks saw it like that. I think it just worked out that way.
Yeah, and I think Kevin's right. Like I think they're, if you're Vancouver right now, you're signing him to keep evaluating him.
Yeah.
And I mean, where they are right now, they're in evaluation mode big time. Like everything, they're completely
they're evaluating everything. That's true.
But
wouldn't you say, Ak, that if the chances of them re-signing Horvat were slim, they're now none because now they've allocated $6 million next year?
I think they were none already.
Okay.
I mean, the only thing I have to wonder about is whether or not they'll trade him this year. And I think that they might let him. They might let him go. They might not trade him for anything. They might still think they have a chance. I mean, they just made a coaching change. They're not making that coaching change to tank. They're still going for it. Right now, and that's.
I mean, it's.
I think they'll trade him for sure, but I just don't know if they're going to get as much as they think they are.
I will say this too. This was odd for me. Yesterday at the CHL Top Prospects game, like a lot of other games, they always want to show what NHL GMs are there. they showed Rutherford, and I didn't see Alvin. So it does make you wonder how things are working there, even in the evaluation process.
Well,
He did come out and say some things, though. Rutherford came out and said is apologizing about that kind of like. I think he's realizing that the perception is not good. What's going on right now? And,
yeah, but the Canucks were playing yesterday, so Alvin might have been with the team while Rutherford was at the.
Okay,
At the
I mean that's a fair
GMs
statement.
this time of year don't always travel with the team at all. So
No.
I mean,
But,
it was sticking around.
It was one of the first games with their new head coach, so maybe he wanted to be.
No, it's very possible. It was in Seattle, right? So he was probably there too. He was probably in Seattle.
Now the interesting thing here is right now, like I was saying, Buffalo has won 4 games in a row. They're only 3 points behind Washington and Pittsburgh, and more importantly, Kev, they have the most cap space of any team right now. They have $18 million in available cap space. Right now, everybody's saying they're going to stick with the plan. They're going to do what we've been talking about. But if they're 3 points out of a playoff spot, if they're closer when March 3rd comes around, don't you think Kevin Adams and the ownership are going to be saying, if we made one deal that doesn't impact us down the line, we can make the playoffs. It would be beneficial to have these young guys play in a postseason.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the one thing that intrigued me, and it's good stuff because it was reported by Pierre LeBrun, is that they're interested in Timo Meier. And, they're already tied for the league lead in terms of offensive potency, 3.88 goals per game. Can you imagine adding Meier to that group? And now you're going to, just sorting through who they have there, you're going to have almost 3 quality lines of scorers, and at least 2 dynamite lines.
Yeah, but you know what's funny about that, Kev? I would, if I were adding to that team, I would add another goalie because I can't trust the tandem that they have.
Right.
Yeah, that goes without saying. We're stipulating that they have to improve their goaltending, but
then I get it.
Like this team. Like beyond this season, but just moving forward, if you could add a player of Meier's magnitude, I would do that. Now, what is Greer going to ask for? Like, I would sacrifice multiple draft picks in a hurry to get Meier, and maybe even good.
I would give him Middlestat and a first next year. I would.
Yeah, well, I don't think they'll take Middlestat.
Based on what the rumor is that Greer is looking for, it would probably have to be a roster player like a Middlestat and a first-round pick plus a prospect. And then, Russ, you're talking Kulich, or you're talking Rosen, or you're talking,
I would give him Rosen just because Kulich is probably going to play in the NHL next year.
I let's put it this way: if the cost was Middlestat and Rosen and a first-round pick, I think the deal would be done by now. I think they want more than that.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be done too. I mean, I think it's going to be a little bit more than that.
That's probably true, Kev. And that's
because that just isn't good enough. I mean, he's an incredible player.
Yes.
I'm with you. And that's why
but they're not re-signing him either. Like at some point, they may have to go below what they're asking for.
I don't know about that. I mean, he's still they don't even have to trade him right now.
Right, but this is the interesting thing with him. Like, and whether it's the Sharks or whether it's the team that he gets traded for.
You got to move away from that, because whoever's going to sign him is not going to sign him for $10 million.
Right, exactly. Well, right.
But that's why you got to move away about it.
Yeah.
Right. But over the say Buffalo trades for him. All they have to do is qualify him. It doesn't mean that they're signing him. I mean, if there's
exactly. That's why it's not that as big a deal as you want to make out to be. I mean, if it came down to that, would it be a big deal? Yeah. But it's not going to, because he's going to want to get a long-term deal.
Right.
And it's going to, but he's such a terrific player. To be honest with you, I have no idea why the Sharks would be willing to deal him. Like, I would just be trying to get that deal done long-term. Like,
you may not want to play for them anymore. That may be
I mean, that could be, and that may be the reason, but
yeah, I think that's probably the reason.
Well, he's a victim of them being in cap jail with all the other contracts. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So if you could move out a Logan Couture, or you could move out a Carlson or a Vlasic,
because I'm pretty sure they've made him an offer. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Well, I think they have too. I mean, Greer has said so, but LeBron said they're not talking at all now.
Right.
So, but one thing I would say
even though you're right, and they don't have to trade him, but they're still going to have this other business in the offseason having to figure out what to bring him in at. Then if he doesn't get traded, I think
no, but you can always it's easier to make a deal in the offseason.
Yeah.
It's always easier. So, but anyway, one thing I did want to add.
Right. Can I add something that's on?
I just want to throw out one thing because I think this is interesting. I don't know how many of you have seen Carlson live, but I saw him for the first time live Tuesday. And like his game, I can't believe where it's at compared to where it's been.
I saw him recently, and it's great.
It's really unbelievable. Like, he creates, and when he's on the ice, the puck just goes right to him. Like when he was in Ottawa, the Sharks got 2 goals. They lost 3-2. He was the catalyst on both of their goals. He was dangerous every time he was on the ice. Like he is, if you could make an off-season deal, he's not going to move it now, but in the off-season, if you could get that cap hit down to $8 million,
right?
Holy cow!
Yeah, teams would line up for
him.
Yeah. I agree completely. So one last thing on Meier too, like I agree with what Kevin's saying. I mean, the rumor that I heard about, Holtz, Blackwood, and a first-round pick from New Jersey for Meier. That's more in the realm you're talking about.
Yeah, I would take the Buffalo deal we offered over that.
Yeah, I don't think either one of those deals will get.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying we're talking about you're definitely talking about a big offer. Like there's going to be. We're not talking about a small offer at all.
If New Jersey, this is unreasonable, Mike being the GM here. If I'm the GM of the San Jose Sharks and New Jersey is asking for Meier, one of 2 names has to be a part of this deal, either Luke Hughes or Nemec. And if they're not, we're done.
You're hanging up the phone, Mike. You've hung up on half the GMs in the league.
Yeah,
I
think
agree with you anymore.
That's unrealistic.
There's no way in the world Luke Hughes will get traded.
They wouldn't deal with you, Mike, because no one wants to deal with an angry man. So,
I do think Myers is going to go. Those are the 2. I mean, the Islanders also had interest in Timo Meier, but I think at the end of the day, I think it's going to be Buffalo or the Devils. And I think Devils have a really good shot at it because I think Devils would sign him long term.
If you're trading for an impact player like that, you have to get one of the top 2 or 3 prospects.
Well, Holtz is one of the top 3 prospects.
When I rejected the Devils deal, like Holtz can be part of the deal.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm just saying the other parts weren't enough.
Yeah. It's the Blackwood part. That's really at this point.
It depends what you think. It depends what Greer thinks of Blackwood too. Like there's Blackwood. There's Blackwood has a lot of people who really like him in the league.
But how many goaltenders with question marks can San Jose?
Capo
Kakinen. They're not getting a surefire number 1 in Blackwood. If it was Blackwood 3 years ago, then sure. But right now he's got a lot of question marks.
You can't trade Meier and get a question mark.
Right. Exactly.
You got to get a prospect that everybody agrees on. Like you just said, some people really like him, but not everybody. And you got to get a prospect back that everybody likes. Essentially.
Right. Oh yeah, for sure.
Because Meier's the real deal. I mean, we all know that. So he's impact. So
I want to bring up something that Funky in the chat brought up because Russ and I were talking about this. Funky's talking about Matthew Nyes, the Leafs prospect, and he says, I don't think other GMs rate Nyes as high as the Leafs do. Okay, what prospect? Many teams, their top prospects, that team believes more in that prospect than other teams do, and I'm sure other GMs out there are knocking down those prospects because they don't want to give up as much for them. So, I mean,
I've seen him play. I've seen him play live in the playoff situation. I would say this: second or third liner, second at his height, could do it for sure. Power forward, has a really good shot, will mix it up in the corners.
Right.
He's physical. He skates well.
Right.
Like it would be hard for me to believe that 32 teams wouldn't want him. Now, as far as where they rank him, okay. I mean, that might differ because some teams might say, hey, he's going to take another 2 years, and that's reasonable. a team like the Leafs may rush him, and that's maybe what they're going to do.
And a team like the Leafs may rush him because of things that happened last night in that game against the Rangers that Russ and I both watched, because you had Timothy Liljegren, who's arguably right now the Leafs' best defenseman, where he's played that way this year, get absolutely destroyed by Keandre Miller along the boards. Later in the period, Russ, who was it that knocked Giordano down? It was
for Giordano. Let me think about it for a second.
Yeah. So, but Giordano gets slammed along the wall, and absolutely no response other than Michael Bunting yelling at the Rangers players from the bench. No physical response, no nothing. And turning the other cheek is fine, but when you come to play,
that's what I thought it was. Andrew's right. It's Cooley, the new kid.
It was cool. It was Cooley. Okay. So yeah, so you got a kid in his first NHL game hitting, and believe me.
No, it is. Esmir's right. It was Braden Schneider. It's Schneider.
Oh, Braden Schneider. The point is that two Leaf defensemen got absolutely destroyed, and there was no response whatsoever. Now the Leafs won the game, but Kev, in the playoffs, when you're playing Tampa or Boston and they're running your big players, they're hitting Marner or Matthews or Tavares or Nylander, and you have no response, they're going to keep doing that because there's no concept.
Yeah, they're going to keep doing it whether you respond or not. But you're right. I mean, playoffs are much more physical, and you got to be able to respond because you got to give it back. Although it doesn't, they always say it detours, but it never does. We all watch the playoffs. Everybody just keeps banging away.
And actually, and Jerkball makes a great point. Even bringing in Nyes, you're not bringing him in for that.
No. You can't expect a 20-year-old. But the whole point is that you hear right now the talk out there. Well, why wouldn't the Leafs trade Matthew Nyes? They're going all in. So why? Because he provides an aspect that organization doesn't have. And if you're going to say that you're going to trade him for a guy who's going to play for you for 20 games as a rental, you're high. Kyle Dubas.
Well, it depends how close you feel you are.
Well, okay, but if it's a situation, and I floated this with Russ, and he agreed. If you're trading Matthew Nyes, who's from Arizona, and you're trading him to the Coyotes for Lawson Krause, who's 25 or 26 years old, who's under contract for 4 more years, who is starting to come of age in terms of his offensive side of his game, okay. Then you've got somebody that's at a cost certain price for a number of years. If you're trading, if you're saying that they are going to trade him for a rental, even if it's somebody like a Timo Meier that they have no chance of signing because they're going to have to sign Matthews or Nylander or all these other guys, I don't think Kyle Dubas is stupid enough to do that.
It depends on the circumstances. Mm-hmm. Again, and I talked about this recently. Like if you're the Colorado Avalanche and trying to win a second consecutive. So you can give up a Bo Byram for rent, right? Because you're playing with house money. You've already won, but more importantly, the drive to get that second is it's so big. And maybe this guy that maybe Bo Horvat could put them over the top in terms of being able. They got to replace the Cadre's points from.
I will tell you this: another weakness that I did spot on the Leafs is bottom 6 faceoffs. I mean that's an issue for them.
Plus, that could have been the worst face-off game they've had all year. They've been
just killed them on the goal.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Wasn't Colorado last year the worst face-off team in the league?
Yeah, they were.
Flyers were one of the best.
So
Flyers were the best.
Colorado had Cale Makar and a lot of things that can make up for it.
Yeah,
you're right.
Let me run this by Russ because are Carter Mazer and Nyes?
They're different players. I like them equally though for different reasons.
Yeah,
but they're both on the same level.
Yeah, no, I mean I brought that up recently to a scout, and I just asked him about where he saw him, and he said and he compared them. The Toronto pick and Detroit's pick. He said both teams love their guys.
Right.
So,
I don't see.
If you ask me, maybe Mazer gets a few less points, but is better all around than Nyes. That's probably the difference.
Yeah.
He's not as big as Nyes. He's only 170 pounds, but he's only 20 years old, so he'll fill
Yeah,
out.
he plays about 225
He
though.
does.
Yeah.
He gets like a ton of
But by the way, for those who don't know, he'll be the new Tyler Bertuzzi.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because he can score and he's just a battler. Like he just doesn't quit. Not a
Every
fighter.
shift is a good shift
I
for
want to
him.
get into Bertuzzi tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay, I was just going to say that the latest injury. I'm assuming that it may not be something that keeps him out until the.
Oh, he's
deadline.
playing tonight. So
He's playing tonight, but it's the narrative is here. He keeps getting hurt, and it's like
When he plays, that's gonna happen.
but he got hit by a shot while blocking a shot, and then he broke another hand because the teammate hit him the shot. And why did the teammate hit him? Because he was driving the net.
Exactly.
He was exactly where you want him, and the shot hit him in the thing. I mean, is that a guy who's injury prone? And this latest thing, groin pull. He's had two major injuries. Come back. He's supposed to be gone 6 weeks. He came back in 4. Was supposed to be gone another 6 weeks. Came back in I think 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then he ends up with a groin. And now he's out two games. Is he really injury prone, or is he just unlucky?
To finish off here, because I know we'll have a lot to talk about tomorrow, but I want to ask you this, Kev, because when I heard this statement from Gary Bettman, I laughed out loud. The statement that he believes that there is no tanking.
Yeah.
What is the color of the sky in your world, Gary? I have a lot of respect for you, but okay. There is tanking. There's tanking going on this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's managerial tanking, but there's no player.
The question he was
And there's
asked.
no coach tanking.
What was the question he was asked? He's a member.
I just know that his response was
do teams tank? The question was, do teams tank? This is the question he's asked. If you're asked that question, you say, nope, players and coaches, they're teams don't tank. He's going to respond to the question he's asked. He's a lawyer. Remember that. That is what he does. Like, if you had said, do general managers sometimes trade players to the AHL so teams don't do as well down the stretch? He may have been like, perhaps. But, he was asked flat out, do teams tank? And he's like, no. And he's right. So it's like the reality is like teams themselves, players themselves. So, I mean, people take that way out of context.
Yeah, I mean, Montreal, you have listed, and rightfully so, as one of the great tankers. But, someone forgot to tell that to their backup goalie because he has just stood on his head and won games where they shouldn't have won.
Here's one more bit of news. I didn't realize this from yesterday. Alan Walsh tweeted it. Something I talked about a couple weeks ago. America's largest owner of local sports channels is heading towards bankruptcy, putting at risk its payments to Major League Baseball, NBA, and, of course, the NHL. This is not going to help them with revenue. That is not.
Who is this?
I think it's that sports I think it's that Bally's Sports. They didn't name it.
Bally's, yeah.
But I think it's Bally's. I think that's – the Sinclair thing. Remember we talked about it?
Sinclair's, it's who owns that, yeah.
Yeah, Sinclair owns that whole group.
Yeah.
And it's $8.6 billion debt restructuring. And so that is going to affect NHL revenue.
Yeah, for sure.
They will. They won't be able to get all that out of them. I wanted to do something real fast before we get out of here, but it's 2:00, so I don't know if I can. I've been trying to. Let's hold it off for tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll hold it off for tomorrow. But tomorrow I do want to talk about the Jack Hughes versus Connor McDavid debate as far as MVP of the NHL this year.
Okay.
And we'll get into that tomorrow. Because I think it's a really worthwhile discussion.
Are we going to debate Christmas and Hanukkah too? Are we going to do that?
Yes, absolutely. But that's
Okay.
not. That's,
All right.
like,
I'm up for it.
Christmas is
I'm up
going
for
to
it.
kick Hanukkah's ass, Russ. There's no
Okay.
question.
Valentine's Day versus St. Patrick's Day. Discuss.
No. That is all the time we have for today, folks. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you all again tomorrow. Same group here tomorrow. Talk to you then.